Okay, so um, have you ever tried to move an app to your SD card, to free up some space,
Huh?
and then the option is just gone or it's grayed out?
Yeah.
It's the worst. So we asked you guys to send in your tech frustrations, and this one was the top one.
Yeah, it's a popular one for sure.
And we found this blog post from Fixing Pro that breaks down why this happens, and it's not as simple as I thought it would be.
No, not at all. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, more than you might think.
So much more. So yeah, we thought we'd do a deep dive into this and see if we could figure out why this is such a pain.
Definitely. I mean, it used to be so easy to just move apps to your SD card.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a simple way to manage your storage.
Exactly, but now it's like a whole thing.
It is a whole thing. It's like Android's gotten a lot more complex over time.
Yeah, and the article mentions that things started changing way back with Android 6.0 Marshmallow.
Oh yeah, back in 2015.
That's when Google started limiting SD card access, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big turning point. They introduced this thing called adoptable storage.
Adoptable storage. So is that where you can format the SD card to act like internal storage?
Exactly. It basically makes the SD card part of your phone's main storage system.
So is that a workaround then?
It can be, but there's a catch.
Okay, what's the catch?
It wipes the SD card clean.
Oh, so if you're using the SD card for other stuff like photos or music.
Yeah, you'd lose all that.
Okay, so it's not ideal.
No, not if you're using your SD card for multiple things,
Uh-huh.
but even if you were okay with wiping it.
It wouldn't necessarily solve the app moving issue.
Right, because even though adoptable storage lets you install apps directly to the SD card,
Okay.
there's still the issue of performance.
What do you mean?
Well, SD cards, even those really fast ones,
Uh-huh.
they're just not as fast as your phone's built-in storage.
So even if I wiped my SD card and used adoptable storage, my phone could still be slower.
Yeah, that's a possibility. It's
Oh.
all about the speed of data transfer.
Okay, so explain that a little more.
So think of it this way. Internal storage is like a superhighway for data.
Okay.
It's designed for super fast communication.
Makes sense.
But an SD card, even a fast one, is more like a back road.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
It's fine for storing files, like taking a leisurely drive.
Right.
But if you need to get somewhere fast, like when you're running a demanding app,
Uh-huh.
you might hit some bottlenecks on that back road.
That's a great analogy. I get it. So basically, the SD card can't keep up with the speed that some apps need to run smoothly.
Exactly, and to make things even more complicated.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yeah. The article says app developers now have a say in whether their apps can be moved at all.
Wait, really? So it's not just Google being restrictive?
Nope. By the time Android 7.0 Nougat came out in 2016,
Okay.
the move to SD card option was basically gone.
Mm-hmm.
Developers got more control over their apps.
I see. So they can just decide, nope, my app's not going anywhere.
Pretty much.
Huh.
And a lot of times they restrict app movement because of those performance issues we talked about.
Oh, right. Because if their app is running on a slower SD card, it might be laggy or crash.
Exactly. And then users blame the app, not the storage setup.
So it's not just Google being we don't want you to use SD cards. It's also the developers trying to protect their apps and make sure they run well.
Exactly. It's all about creating a good user experience.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to use an app that's constantly crashing or freezing.
Yeah, totally. So in a way, this whole limitation on SD card access could be seen as a quality control measure.
Right. It's a way to avoid potential problems and ensure that apps are running on a storage system that can handle them.
Interesting. So it sounds like moving apps to an SD card, even with adoptable storage and all these tech workarounds, it's just not as simple or beneficial as it used to be.
Yeah, we're starting to see a pattern here, for sure.
So if certain types of apps just aren't meant for SD cards, what are they?
Well, that's a great question, and we'll dig into that right after the break.
Stick with us.
Well, think about the apps that are essential to your phone, the stuff that makes it work.
Hey.
The article mentions pre-installed apps, like the Google Play Store.
Yeah.
Or your camera app.
Right.
That stuff needs to stay on the internal storage.
To function properly.
Yeah, basically. They're the foundation of your phone's software.
And you don't want to mess with the foundation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You wouldn't build a house on a shaky foundation, right?
No, you wouldn't. So those core apps, they need that super highway connection.
Yep, the fast and stable internal storage.
Makes sense. What else?
The article also talks about launcher apps.
Launcher apps.
Those are the ones that customize your home screen and icons.
Oh, right.
They say it's best to keep those on internal storage, too.
Why is that?
Moving them can cause visual glitches or even prevent your phone from booting up properly.
Oh, wow. So my phone just wouldn't turn on.
Yeah, could get messed up.
Okay, so don't touch those.
Definitely not the launcher apps.
No.
What else? They mention app cloning and like moving large game files.
Like as workarounds.
Yeah, but even the article says those have limitations.
So they're not like a universal fix.
Right. They're more like niche solutions for specific situations.
Okay, and speaking of things that can like affect performance,
Oh, yeah.
we can't forget about the SD card itself.
That's a big one. The type of SD card you use can make a huge difference.
The article really stresses that.
It's not just about having an SD card. It's about having the right SD card.
So like what makes an SD card the right SD card?
Well, they recommend going for a Class 10 or UHS-1 card
Okay, and why those?
because they're designed for faster read and write speeds.
So like faster data transfer.
Exactly. Think about it like this. Imagine trying to stream a 4K movie
Okay.
from a slow SD card.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a buffering nightmare
I can only imagine.
because the card just can't keep up with the data demands.
Right, so if we apply that to apps,
Exactly. A slow SD card could lead to like lag crashes.
or even like the app just refusing to move,
Totally. It's like trying to run a marathon in sandals.
you're just not going to get very far.
You need the right equipment for optimal performance.
Love that analogy.
And the article even suggests using an app to test your card's speed.
Is there an app for that?
Yeah, there are a few out there. They mention one called A1SD Bench.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. So it sounds like there's a whole science to picking the right SD card.
There is. But even if you do everything right,
Like you get the right card,
Right.
you have a compatible Android version,
Yeah.
and you choose the right apps.
even then, moving apps to an SD card might not be the best solution in 2025.
So what are we supposed to do then?
That's the big question, right?
Because storage space is limited.
It is. So the article shifts gears a bit
Oh, okay.
and talks about some practical storage-saving hacks.
That don't involve moving apps to the SD card.
Right. These are things you can do to free up space on your phone right now.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's hear it.
First up, the classic, move your media files to the SD card.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Photos, videos, music, documents, anything that's not an app.
I feel like I've been doing that since I got my first smartphone.
It's a tried and true method.
What else
Another simple trick, change the default download location.
for like my browser?
Yeah. And apps like YouTube.
Okay.
Instead of automatically saving files to your phone's internal storage, redirect them straight to the SD card.
Ah, that's smart. So you're like preventing the clutter before it even starts?
Exactly.
Hey,
Proactive instead of reactive.
I like it.
And then there's the classic clearing cached data.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It can free up a surprising amount of space,
Especially if you haven't done it in a while.
like a digital detox for your phone.
Out with the old, in with the new.
Exactly. Or at least with some breathing room.
Makes sense. What else?
They also suggest using lightweight app alternatives.
Okay, like what?
For example, if you're a Facebook user,
Uh-huh.
try Facebook Lite instead of the full-fledged app.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
It has fewer features,
Right.
but it takes up way less space.
So it's about finding that balance between functionality and storage efficiency.
Exactly. You don't
Okay.
always need all the bells and whistles.
Are there any other hacks in the article? They do mention one more that I think a lot of people forget about cloud storage.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Like moving all those photos and videos to like Google Drive or Dropbox.
Definitely. I mean, that can free up so much space on your phone.
Yeah. And it seems like cloud storage is getting more and more affordable these days.
Oh, yeah, it's really accessible now.
Yeah,
So that's a good option for like managing all that data.
totally. And it kind of ties into what we've been talking about with SD cards. Like, they're still useful,
Right.
but they're not the only solution for storage anymore.
Exactly. The tech landscape has shifted.
Yeah, we've got faster internal storage, more efficient apps,
Uh-huh.
and now we have these cloud
It's
services.
a whole new world.
Mm-hmm.
So if moving apps to SD cards isn't the go-to solution anymore, what's the bottom line?
That is the question, right? Like, what are we supposed to do?
Well, I think the article sums it up pretty well in the conclusion.
Okay.
It basically says SD cards are great for storing files, but they're just not as fast or as secure as internal storage.
And that's why Google's made it harder to move apps to them.
Exactly. It's not that SD cards are bad.
Right.
It's just that they're better suited for certain tasks.
Like they're a specialized tool.
Exactly. They're fantastic for media storage backups.
Right.
You can even use them to expand the storage on other devices.
Like cameras.
Yep.
Or laptops.
But for running apps that need like speed and security,
Yeah.
internal storage or the cloud might be better options.
Definitely. So the answer to the article's question,
Should you even move apps to an SD card?
it's basically, it depends.
It depends. It all comes down to like,
Your Android version, the app developer, the type of app.
And the SD card itself.
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all
You've
answer.
got to weigh the pros and cons.
Understand the limitations and choose the best storage strategy for you.
So it's about being an informed user,
Right.
which is what this whole deep dive has been about.
We went from being frustrated about not moving apps to the SD card to like exploring all these other solutions.
And learning how storage works on our phones.
Exactly. And hopefully now you guys listening feel a little more empowered to manage your digital lives.
We hope so.
And to wrap things up, I want to leave you with a thought.
Okay.
If you could design the perfect phone storage solution for like 2025 and beyond,
Okay.
what would it look like? Would you stick with SD cards? Would you go all in on cloud storage?
Or maybe something totally new.
Who knows? Technology is always changing.
That's true. We might have to revisit this topic in another deep dive someday.
We'll see. But until then, keep those phones tidy, those minds curious, and thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of technology.
See you next time.